It's 20 minutes before 3 o'clock, which means that we've finally reached the final lap of the show. We're joined now by Elaine Matlala, early childhood practitioner, and we're going to be unpacking how to safeguard your relationship with your little ones, forming healthy attachments and connections with children. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Elaine, and a warm welcome to Power 987.
Good morning, I was Pretty. Thank you so much.
Let's speak about what does a healthy emotional attachment between a parent and a child actually look like in a day-to-day lifestyle?
So a healthy attachment between a parent and a child is it's built on a safe base. So it means that your child knows you, understands you. You've built a connection with your child where even if you raised your voice at them, they don't start wondering about your next move. They don't feel like you are being unpredictable in any kind of way, where they know if I break a glass by mistake, mom might be upset with me, but she still loves me. If I make a mistake and I, for example, lose my lunchbox at school, mom will probably not be happy, but I don't need to be afraid to go home because of it, because I know that my mom will still want to see me. She'll still be happy to see me. She'll still want to know about my day. So it's free from unpredictability, and it is it's a place where a child feels safe.
You know, you speak about losing a lunchbox, and I'm thinking, just not the Tupperware. Whatever you do, lose anything, but just not the Tupperware.
We all know that.
Exactly. Exactly. Look, while we speak about losing a Tupperware, of course, there's a thin line of respect versus being afraid as well. How do we protect that? How do we make sure that, you know, there's a sense of respect and understanding that mom is available whenever I need her, as opposed to being afraid so that you respect or you do things on command based on being afraid?
So I think it takes a bit of coaching, to be honest, because we were raised to respect adults. And, you know, when an adult speaks, you keep quiet, you don't speak back, whether you agree or not, you just listen, you take what they say and you move on. And with our children, we try to kind of break that, you know. And I've noticed even with mine, I do give them the freedom to speak, but sometimes it gets out of hand, where a child will speak to you in a tone of voice that you know is disrespectful, even when they're not aware of it. So I think it takes a bit of coaching just to say, okay, I hear your point, but this is not how we speak to adults. Rather say it in this way and not in that way. Or when an adult is speaking, even if you don't agree, sometimes you have to be quiet and let them speak until they give you an opportunity to speak. So I don't think there's a paintbrush effect that you can just apply. But it definitely takes a bit of coaching.
You know, there are some common parenting habits that maybe you can share with us this morning, or maybe strategies that unintentionally push children away, even when done with love or good intentions. What are we skating on here? What are we trying to prevent, and how do we prevent it?
I think we need to really, really be aware of ourselves, because we are we communicate in different ways. We communicate with our bodies, we communicate with our voices, we communicate with our words, we communicate with our facial expressions. And so when we are with our children, they are paying attention to all of that, especially the younger ones, because they are still learning how the world works. And their basis for learning how the world works is by observing you. And so when they're looking at your face and it seems a bit strained, but you're saying a nice thing, that can be kind of confusing. Or maybe you were just caught up in a moment or a thought, and your child comes to you and is telling you something interesting, but your face is a poker face. Then that says to your child, oh, maybe that's not so interesting, or maybe I'm not so interesting. Or it can come across as dismissive. It can come across as if you don't really want to hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
And that automatically gives them, especially if it happens more than once, excuse me, which it will, because we live in a very technologically advanced age where we are looking at our phones almost every minute. And so your child is trying to communicate something, but you've got a poker face because you're looking at your phone. That automatically says, this thing in my hand is more important than you are, you know?
Yeah.
And we just have to make sure that we're aware of how we are communicating with our children, because we give them cues with our faces, our bodies, with our voices. And sometimes we unintentionally give them those cues that say, speak to someone else at the moment, I'm busy. Or when mom's got her phone in her hand, you don't talk to her because she will not hear you. And that pushes them to finding other ways to find that validation that they're seeking for, or to find that emotional attachment that they're not getting from you. So I definitely think that our biggest weapon or our power will be in being aware.
I think sometimes, as much as we do it with technology in our phones, sometimes we also lose the cognizant side of just getting home and being a happy mom or a happy dad, because you're so tired and you just want to get into your element and zone out, not realizing that, you know, there's somebody who's been looking forward to seeing you.
Seeing you all day. And something wonderful that I heard on social media the other day is that your child loved you from the day they were born. So for them, it's not learning to love you. It's like, hey, I love you.
It's just natural.
With my entire existence. And for you, it's like if they're 2 years old, you've only loved them for 2 years, but they've loved you for their entire life. And I found that to be so profound.
Yeah, certainly is. And then there's also the overprotectiveness of being too involved. You know, how does it actually harm the parent-child bond? Where's the line? Because I think today the conversation is really about these blurry lines that we need to iron out.
Yes, the overprotectiveness can be an issue. I was raised by very strict parents, and they did it with all the love in their heart. They were trying to make sure that I'm going to turn out great.
No, that's true.
And that my life is going to be fine, and I'll learn all the skills that I need. But sometimes we forget that our overprotectiveness can be the barrier between us and our children connecting. And by connecting, I mean like your child knowing truly, without having to second guess, that my mom loves me or my dad loves me, and they have all the time in the world for me. It's not about my schooling. It's not about the way I dress. It's not about what I eat, where I go, who I'm with. It's purely about me. They love me for me. And so the overprotectiveness, and there's a term now for modern day parents that is called a helicopter parent. That parent that's always hovering over the child, not letting the child express themselves or investigate things or explore, trying things and getting hurt and all of that. And that makes children, that takes away their that thing that they're born with, that they desire to be curious and taste funny things and go to places where you said don't go to, that allows them to discover themselves as well. So we would be bordering on the line of also hindering them from developing fully in their personality, physically, emotionally, and just discovering themselves.
I want us to revisit the previous question and put into perspective vice versa, because as much as a parent might be the one who's disconnected, we've also seen that in this day and age, children have also shown signs and symptoms of being disconnected, whether they might be on their phones, watching television. Take us through that.
So this new age, it really presents a challenge for us as human beings in general, because when our children are watching TV, when they are on their cell phones or playing their PlayStation, they tend to zone out, if I can say that. And that leaves us trying to get their attention, but versus the screen, you're not going to get much attention. So yes, children do get disconnected, but I think it still goes down to the fact that we are the ones who are in control. So if we give them the device too early, or if we give them the device with no boundaries, then we will open them up to that distractedness that they have when they are thinking about their devices or the shows that they watch or whatever it is. And also how we create meaningful relationships for them. So do we think that it's best that they spend time video calling their friends, or are we organizing play dates for them to play with their friends? Because that's also another thing. They connect with their friends on their devices because we're so busy and we don't have time to take them to a park to go and play, or we don't have the energy at the end of the week to arrange a visit with their friends. So I think as much as the children do get distracted, I think that we also have to be conscious of that element or the role that we play in all of it, so that we're the ones who are able to center everything intentionally to creating that bond.
So basically, Elaine, you're saying when it's time to be an adult, you must be an adult.
You must be a responsible adult. Yes, my husband and I often joke when we're having our Sunday afternoon moment of relaxation. At a certain time, we look at each other and we say, okay, this is the part where we have to go be responsible adults.
That's true. And part of a responsible adult is knowing when and how to apologize. I think between you and I, you can attest as well. Growing up, we would seldomly get an apology from our parents, especially not a direct one. You'd probably get a please make me tea as a means of listen. We've done it. It's over. We are back to basics now. And I think there's also been a shift of dynamics now in this day and age. You know, I think in this day and age, maybe I could be wrong. Children want to hear that I'm sorry, that apology, that authentic feel. What does a healthy, age-appropriate apology sound like in this day and age?
Yo, that one is a tough one because our egos are also at play here. We're also thinking, if I apologize to this child, am I giving them too much power in this relationship? But it is totally safe, especially if you are genuinely sorry and you genuinely owe them an apology, because sometimes we can confuse not wanting them to be upset or disappointed or hurt with them actually deserving an apology. So sometimes, yes, we lose it and we might shout at the wrong time or accuse them of doing something that they really didn't do. And that apology goes a long way in saying, hey, I appreciate your perspective, and I'm so sorry that I accused you of breaking the trust when it was not you. But also not to be manipulated by, especially the twins and teens when they're trying to get their way. So it is a very fine line, but I think that when we build connections with our children that are authentic and deep, then we're able to apologize quite easily. If you had a moment where you couldn't regulate your own emotions and you took it out on your child, it's okay and it's easy with that bond to say, hey, I'm so sorry for that. I'll try not to do it. And they also get to understand that sometimes adults make mistakes. You know, we grew up with that thing that says, oh, adults are perfect. I can't wait to be an adult. And then you find out.
Little did we know.
And then you find out that it's not so, yeah. So it goes a long way to be able to apologize. But I think that the basis for that, again, is that strong bond, that strong relationship.
There's an important key point that you mentioned as well when we speak about tween and teen. You know, I think the connection can either be created from the get-go or maybe mended during the course of the time. But can connection and secure attachment still be built in a child if they're already in their tween or teen? Is it ever too late to really create or mend?
I don't think it's ever too late. I mean, if you think about, for example, relationships of fathers who are absent in their children's lives, at a point when they do meet, let's say we've got this 16-year-old who's never met their father and has been angry their whole life, trying to figure out where my father is, why doesn't he love me enough to be in my life, and eventually gets an opportunity to reunite with their father. It's open to being mended as long as the parent is committed to it and will remain consistent, because you're going to have to build that credibility, but you're going to have to be consistent in doing that. Meaning, you can't take me to McDonald's today for ice cream, and then tomorrow when I call you, you're not picking up my calls. Or when I meet you, you said you'd be there. Now we've had this heart to heart. We've spoken, and I've told you how I feel. You've hugged me, validated my emotions, and then when it's time for you to show up for me, you're busy again. You know, so we can mend. Even adult relationships can be mended. I mean, parent to child, but it takes consistency, commitment, and I think that once those two elements are in place, it's easy to build.
Elaine, I'm out of time. I'm going to have to leave it there, but thank you very much for sharing this information with us this morning. I sincerely hope that between you and I having this conversation, we've assisted a parent out there who was looking for some of the answers to the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And that's Elaine Matlala, early childhood practitioner, wrapping up our time together.